You probably saw the title and immediately thought about Canada, and you're absolutely right. This wouldn't happen anywhere else. It all started off when an inspector was doing an annual check, climbing up a pile of maple syrup barrels, each weighing around 600 pounds, when all of a sudden one tipped over, and along with it, the thieves' plan, in which they had already stolen $18 million worth of maple syrup, weighing more than 3,000 tons, in the largest heist in Canadian history, adjusted for inflation. At first, they thought it could be a glitch or an inventory error, and then they discovered more and more barrels, some half full, others empty, and others filled with water, semen, and baby oil. Okay, maybe not the semen and baby oil, I made that part up, but the rest is true. This meant that the Canadian Federation had an op, and if there's two things I know about Canada, it's that, one, they don't play when it comes to hockey, and two, they especially don't play when it comes to their maple syrup. Look at the flag. The maple syrup bandits might as well have done a 9/11 the way the Federation responded. Over the next few months, doors were busted down, pants were pulled down, and people were turned upside down and all around. Probation, house arrest, prison time, and fines were handed out like candy. Around 17 people were convicted. All of this to get to the man who had started it all, Richard Valieres. But to understand how and why he did it, we need to understand what the Federation is. You see, while other countries hoard gold, weapons, and technology, Canada has an international strategic maple syrup reserve that controls 77% of the world's maple syrup supply, run by the Federation. The way it works is producers are forced to transfer 25% of their crops to the pool to stabilize and control pricing. They get paid only when the barrels are sold, and the Federation sets how much can be produced overall, and if the producers don't adhere, they're fined heavily and can have their barrels confiscated. There's even been protests that caused the Federation to place guards in the territories of producers to confiscate entire crops. That brings us back to Richard Valieres, who is deeply embedded in the maple syrup world. His background is in being a barrel roller, and they aren't the people in Donkey Kong. But like Donkey Kong, he was angry. He worked as a middleman selling syrup, connecting sellers of maple syrup to buyers of it. And his father was a producer. He himself had been fined before for stepping out of the Federation's rules. So what did he do? Osama bin Richard realized the Federation was keeping reserves in a poorly guarded warehouse, so he started scheming. They got people on the inside in on the deal, and they began by taking out barrels, transporting them to their own warehouse, transferring the syrup into their own barrels, and then taking the original drums near a creek, filling them up with water, and then driving them back to the warehouse. As they started to steal more and more, their little theft turned into its own little mini enterprise. They put out job applications for more workers, more drivers, and even started dealing with more brokers in order to offload more and more maple syrup. As they started to steal more and more, there were inevitable slip-ups. They tried to cover their tracks using burner phones and fake registrations, but it started to get to the point where people were full-on emptying maple syrup barrels inside of the warehouse and then leaving them completely empty, and doing this by the hundreds. But they knew they were on a deadline, that there was going to be a routine inspection. And like all of these things, inevitably comes to an end. More and more people started getting pinched, the stories didn't add up, and people would start turning over information. And eventually, they found themselves in prison. The main man, Richard Valieres, the accused ringleader, was sentenced in April 2017 to 8 years in prison plus a $9.4 million fine, which was appealed and lowered to a $1 million fine, and then appealed again, and they reversed their decision to reinstate the original fine. His father was convicted of possession and sentenced to 2 years, followed by 3 years of probation. Etienne St. Pierre, another reseller, was sentenced to 2 years in jail minus 1 day and 3 years of probation and an $850,000 fine. Avit Karan, whose warehouse that they were storing stolen barrels at, was sentenced to 5 years plus a $1.2 million fine, and Sebastian Jutres, a truck driver, served 8 months. There were up to 16 people that were charged and convicted, and that's the story